In my opinion, Solana is the best large cap crypto investment in the entire market, and I believe that one day within the next 1 to 2 years, it will be the second most valuable coin in the crypto space. Now, I don't expect it to surpass Bitcoin anytime soon, if not ever, but I do believe that it has a real possibility of surpassing BNB, XRP, and Ethereum. And even during this bearish period, Solana would need to nearly 5x in order to take over Ethereum spot. As you can see, Ethereum is currently valued at $234 billion, and Solana is valued at $47 billion. Now, I do believe that that is possible within the next 1 to 2 years, but you guys have to remember that this is a bearish period in crypto, and you really can't expect Solana to do anything incredible when there is this much fear in the market. So now let's go ahead and talk about a hypothetical situation where the entire crypto market gets insanely hot at some point in the next 1 to 2 years, and Ethereum ends up going back up towards a $500 to $600 billion market cap. Now, during a bullish environment, I do believe that Solana has a real potential to make a push up to 500 to 600 billion. And if that does end up being the case, and you are accumulating down here at these significant discounts, you could actually 10 to 12x your investment if you do perfectly time the top. Now, of course, that is not financial advice. That is just my opinion, and anything can happen in the crypto space. So Solana hitting a $500 billion market cap is far from a guarantee, but at the same time, I do think that that is within the realm of possibilities, and I actually think it's more likely than not that it will at some point hit those price targets. Now, the main reason why I'm so bullish on Solana is because its transaction speed and transaction fee structure is much superior over a lot of coins such as Ethereum. Now, you can see here that Solana has an average of 4,300 transactions per second, which is quite fantastic. But the important thing, in my opinion, is the fact that the transactions are typically achieved with a finality of under 1 second. Now, when you compare that to Ethereum, their transaction finality speed can be anywhere between 1 to 3 minutes, which is not terrible, especially when you compare it to Bitcoin, but certainly much worse than Solana. Also, guys, the transaction fees are significantly cheaper on Solana, and they are always just a fraction of a cent. Now, when you compare that to Ethereum, its fees are typically anywhere from $5 all the way up to $100 when the network is busy. And in my opinion, guys, I don't think anybody wants to be paying $100 for one simple transaction in crypto. So in my opinion, that's why Solana is much more appealing for developers and users to actually use over Ethereum, and that is why Solana has been exploding in usage for the past couple of years. And regardless of how you feel about crypto memes and NFTs, people have been using Solana for both of those things significantly more than Ethereum. And I do believe that that usage will be reflected in the price at some point within the next 1 to 2 years. Solana is also starting to build quite a bit of institutional interest, and what I'm looking at here is the Solana spot ETF inflows. Over here in this column, you can see that Solana has had a net inflow every single day since the 12th of February, and this is again during a very bearish period in crypto. So although these inflows are nothing crazy, the largest one that we've seen was 30 million just a couple of days ago, it is very nice to see just consistent inflows for this ETF, and that has not been the case for Ethereum or Bitcoin. As you can see, Ethereum has had some quite nice days, as they had a $157 million inflow a few days ago, but they also had some days with massive outflows, and you can see here on the 19th of February, they had a $130 million outflow. Now guys, I do just want to mention this because I feel like I am talking bad about Ethereum right now. I am still bullish on Ethereum, and in my opinion, it is still a good investment for the next couple of years, but at the same time, I am just wanting to show you guys why I am personally so much more bullish on Solana and explain why I personally believe that Solana will outperform Ethereum. Alright guys, the last thing that I wanted to talk about, which is not necessarily a bullish or bearish thing, but something that I believe is important to take a look at, is the fact that Solana does have an inflation rate. Now, Solana's inflation is not nearly as bad as some people make it out to be, as we currently have about a 4 to 4.2% inflation rate, but the good thing is, guys, is there is actually a deflation rate for Solana, and that is the fact that their annual inflation is reduced by 15% each year, and that will be until it hits its long-term floor of 1.5%. Also, guys, if you are worried about the inflation, you can actually stake Solana and get anywhere between a 5 to 7% APY. So that is actually exceeding the inflation rate. So if you guys are staking, then this is just really not a problem whatsoever. But I did just want to point that out. So with all that being said, why has Solana struggled so much in the past year? I mean, just late last year, we were sitting at $250, which was basically an all-time high for this project. And we have fallen all the way down to today's price of $82.50. Well, guys, I believe that this is because there is a lot of macro uncertainty happening, and there has been for the past year or so. And risk-on investors hate uncertainty, so I believe that that is really what's causing this negative price action. The main thing that is happening right now is the conflict between the United States and Iran, but honestly, guys, there is a real possibility that this conflict could end up being much quicker than a lot of people anticipated, and that is because we actually did take out Iran's leader yesterday, and this only ended up taking just a couple of hours after we initially started launching missiles at Iran. Now, guys, I'm not going to get into the politics of this whatsoever, and you can have an opinion on whether this is good or bad. I am not here to discuss that, but what I am here to discuss is the fact that I believe that this conflict has been priced into the market and has caused a lot of bearish price action for the past couple of weeks. So as long as this doesn't end up being a prolonged war situation, I actually think that this could end up being a sell the rumor, buy the news event where we actually start to pump back up because of the fact that this was executed in a very fast manner. Now, we'll just have to see what the stock market thinks of this when it opens up tomorrow, and if we do open up in the green, there is a real possibility that we could have a very nice start to the week for Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana. But of course, we'll just have to see what the stock market thinks about this, and there still is quite a bit of uncertainty outside of this war with, all of the tariffs and just like the macro data releases, like the one that we saw last week that showed inflation was actually starting to tick up again. None of those things are good, and I do believe that they are all having an impact on this. But guys, in my opinion, don't be worried about this short-term FUD. Everything will clear up eventually. We might just have to wait a couple of months. It's so hard to say, really. But whenever it does start to clear up and a lot of people start to take risks in crypto again, that is when I believe that Solana could start to have a very nice recovery, and it is definitely in the realm of possibilities that we could return to $200 to $250 at some point this year. But guys, of course, nothing is set in stone, but I do believe that dollar cost averaging here is probably the best move that you can make, but again, you need to make that decision on your own. But alright guys, thank you so much for tuning in as always, and if you guys enjoyed this content, please make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Your guys' support is greatly appreciated. But alright guys, I'll talk to you tomorrow. Peace.